So you may have noticed the sun is out. That big ball up in the sky that necessitates the wearing of these that we don't typically see for several months is back. And I am stoked. And I want to get outside. I want to get a little bit of trigger time. It's time to put away the ice fishing traps and time to take out the firearms again. So today I was at Poulin's Auctions, and I was looking through some items to catalog, and the neatest piece came to the front. The Liberator Pistol. If ever there was an example of simple, basic Yankee ingenuity, the ability to turn something minimal into an opportunity, it is, in my opinion, this simple sheet metal, folded, stamped, welded Liberator pistol. This little piece, the Liberator pistol, something that was once only looked at or read about in spy novels, is no longer even remotely close to classified, but it still has an interesting story. It was manufactured in 1942 by the Guide Lamp Division at General Motors. Now this isn't your daddy's Oldsmobile, and the people at General Motors didn't know what they were making typically either. So all of the parts of this, as they were manufactured, each typically had a code name. So even the people that were making them weren't really sure what exactly was going on at the time. Now the Liberator was manufactured as a single shot 45 ACP firearm. Just a really crude last ditch back up against the wall type of firearm that the United States planned to drop into the Allied areas so that people who were behind enemy lines or in occupied areas might be able to find them and then utilize this to procure a proper firearm. Say a German MG42 or an MP40 would have worked just fine, and this would have been a good trade for one given the proper incentive. The Liberator had very, very crude sights at best. It didn't really need anything better. It was meant to be used at, a point blank range. It had no rifling and didn't even have a finish on it. It came with some ammunition, some cartoon instructions, and a small wooden dowel to help people fire it, and then dowel be used because there's no ejector or extractor to be able to push the spent casing out after the obtrusion would hold it into the chamber. So if you were in one of these areas and if you were fortunate enough to find yourself with a Liberator pistol, the loading sequence would be as follows. You pull this striker mechanism to the rear, and then it rotates either left or right and sets off to the side. The loading gate is then lifted up, and that's the piece that doubles as the rear sight. The round is inserted into the chamber, the loading gate closed, and then the striker brought back into position again. And since we're looking at the striker mechanism, you'll notice there's a firing pin in the center, which goes through the loading gate and contacts the primer. There's also a guide rod at the top, and this was only in later model Liberator pistols. The guide rod would help keep it to close straight to make sure that the striker would hit the primer every single time. So when the round is inserted in the chamber, the gate is closed, and the striker mechanism is ready to go, it works kind of like a double action. As you squeeze the trigger, it moves more to the rear before dropping forward. Let's see if you can get a peek at it closer. And then when you squeeze it all the way, it drops down, striking the primer. Upon firing, the unloading procedure would be the same. You would pull the cocking lever back, open the loading gate, and utilize a wooden dowel to push the spent casing out in case it was something that you needed again. Now this sequence could be repeated as often as it needed to be, although the idea was for it to only be needed maybe once or twice, and then procure a more effective firearm for your travels forward, whatever that may be. The lifespan is about 50 rounds, so it obviously was nothing that was meant to have any longevity. It was only made to be used, once or twice quick, in or out. But also when doing research, something else I found is there aren't very many people that have actually fired a Liberator. And that's where we're going to make things a little bit different today. We've got to fire this thing. We've got to fire this thing. That's all there is to it. What I want to find out is how rough is this little light, thin, folded, stamped, welded piece with a 45 ACP round. Let's check it out. It's interesting, and it's nowhere near as rough as I assumed it was going to be. Very cool. I'm going to shoot it one more time. This time I'm going to focus just on the firearm so we can see what that looks like together later. That's really cool. I had anticipated it being much more punishing of a recoil, hence the shooting gloves that I don't often wear. Once in a while, but not often. But for today, you bet I was going to wear these. Definitely not necessary though. Now the ammo that I'm shooting, because the longevity on these isn't that great, I don't want to put excessive wear on it. So I'm only shooting some 45 ACP loads that were loaded way down. At their minimum. So it's not super hot stuff. I don't think I'd want to shoot it with some super hot stuff. And the idea of doing this video was twofold. Number one, it's a really cool historic thing that we get to look at and maybe venture a little bit deeper into it than normal. Number two, this gun's going to be coming up for auction in this spring of 2020 auction. So I want the gun to be in fantastic condition. And for a change, I can finally say in the description that I got to test fire it, which doesn't happen very often. I do have to say that I thought the obtrusion, that the case sticking in the chamber after firing was going to be a lot more excessive. Barely touch it with that wooden rod and it pops right out. I thought it was going to expand and be locked in there and I'd have to jam it, but that's not the case at all. Let's get my friend Dave on this so I can stand back and take a look at it from the same perspective that you are. Let's shoot it one more time. Pretty smooth, huh?
It is very smooth.
Yeah.
I like that.
So how freaking cool is that? The Liberator. That's awesome. That was a lot of fun to shoot. Zero wear and tear on the gun. Like I said before, it's a very moderate loaded 45 ACP, so certainly didn't want to take any chances on hurting anything or my mitts. And obviously that wasn't the case. So we got to shoot the Liberator. Now, where these were primarily manufactured with the European theater in mind, believe it or not, the vast majority of them ended up being dropped into China and the Philippines. Didn't even make it into the European theater. So that's going to wrap things up for today. A cool, quick, fun range session with the Liberator and that great big bright ball up in the sky that I'm so happy has returned. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already, both on YouTube and on Full30. Make sure you hit notify so you know when we upload a new video. Share us with your friends in your vast social media universe. Come visit us over on Patreon. And if you're someone that just likes to talk guns, just to chat about them, probably Facebook is the best place to do that at facebook.com/guntestvids. Liberator, how cool is that? Till next time, have fun and be safe.